Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I want to talk about some things that I learned at a non-book event that I sold my book at. So it was a night market kind of event. So there was, people who did pottery and cross stitch, and there was somebody that I think was making barbecue sauce, or had barbecue sauce going. So, just kind of like a hodgepodge of different types of things to go purchase and to look through. And so I was at that event last week, and I learned some things about it. If I make any weird faces in this video, it's because my back hurts, and that is something I learned about this event. Is that when you're moving boxes, lift with your core or your knees, but not your back. No, I know how to lift. I just have a bad back from years of having to do stuff like this. I think that the big thing here is cost. So, what is it going to cost you to attend as a vendor of this event, right? So for me, this was $70, and I understood from the beginning that $70 might mean that I end up making nothing at the event itself. After that I maybe have a loss of $70, and that was something I was okay with. It was, that wasn't the entire consideration. Wasn't just making money for this. It was kind of a few things. So that's your first thing that you should be looking at is can I afford to if I can I afford to spend the money on this and make nothing back, including not even making my money back, my investment back. So keep that in mind. I think that's when you're looking at a non-book event, that's a good way of looking at it because uh, it's there's to some degree it's going to be a crapshoot, right? Second thing that you want to look at, if you're signing up for one of these events and you see a list of vendors, or you could look at maybe if they've done this event in the past, what the vendors were that were there before. Take a look and see if that's something that maybe like, oh, this is pottery and barbecue sauce and all those other things I mentioned. Like, do I think that the people who will be going there for that might also be interested in books? When it comes to barbecue sauce, I would say no. When it comes to pottery, I'm not someone who likes barbecue sauce may also like my book. It's about, are they likely to want to buy both things at the same time, or are they do those is there an overlap there? And I don't think there is really. Pottery, I think that there was I was next to somebody who did pottery. That's why I keep mentioning pottery. I think that when you're talking about something that's decorative, um and some of it's useful but some of it's decorative, I think that you are getting into something where someone might, sometimes people want books for their library or for their bookshelves, or for a library in their house. Like, books can be a decorative piece as well, a collector's item kind of thing, especially if you're there signing books. And like in my case, it was hardcover. So there was some crossover in that. So like that is something to consider, is like, do I think that the other vendors there will attract people who might like my book as well? That way I know if I'm a good fit for it. So next, I want to say, like, even if the expense is low for you, you want to like you want to get something out of it. Like, yeah, you're expecting that you may not get your dollar value returned. Like I said, I spent $70. I was expecting to potentially be out $70 and not make anything back, right? That's okay as long as you're getting something out of it. And so what I got out of it was a few things, and I'll talk about that. The first thing is practice. I'm going to a couple of book fairs that are specifically book fairs in the next few weeks. And I think that the practice I got from this non-book fair was really useful in just, getting to pitch my book and talk to people as they came by. Just kind of, like, I've been talking about my book with people for months, almost a year. some people who know me, some people who don't know me, but this was more of a rapid fire. They see my book, I got to have something ready to say, which is different. It's very different than a lot of other, situations. And this was a really good, useful skill to be practicing. So, people would come over and I'd be like, oh, this is my first novel. I had another book there that was a collection of short stories. So I'd say, this is my first novel. This is a collection of short stories. I'd put, kind of point at both. Um, See which one they gravitated towards. If they started gravitating towards one, I would start having a conversation about that with them. And it was really good practice for that because that's what's going to happen, I would imagine, at book fairs. Um, and you want to be able to do it quickly, and so this was a good practice for that. Um, Also, I got to practice how, I got to do a test run on my setup of my how I want my table set up. So I had like a spin wheel for prizes, which was, mostly candy. My wife got a couple of cutesy things, and then digital copies of my book. Um, and then, I had the tablecloth. I had like a little tent, one of those, pop up tent things. So I had a practice run on setting everything up, right? Um, Also found out that it was it was a 4 hour, so that's not super short, but some of them are going to be longer than that, right? Uh, I got to test out some new like lawn chairs to sit on to make sure that I'm not like sitting on the most uncomfortable thing. These are all things you want to kind of test run. Um, I also got to like kind of test the marketplace, like at a book fair, you're going to get people who are primed to want to buy books. You're going to get people who are planning on buying independent books that they've never heard of. It's going to be different than a lot of other situations in which you'll be able to sell books. Like, think about coffee shops and stuff. People aren't necessarily primed. So you want to see how people that aren't primed for buying books are going to interact with your book at face value in a place that is not a bookstore or a book fair. And so that was interesting. And it also showed me that the audience is different than I was expecting, and maybe that's because again, it's not a book crowd. But so I had my collection of short stories, poems, and essays that was $10, and I had my hardcover of the dinner party, which was $27.99, and those were like the costs that I could afford to sell them at, essentially. And I sold a lot more copies of the $10, like a lot, like sold about 10 times, or no, 6 times as much. So like that is a good thing to know, right? Like before that, I was thinking, nobody's even going to care about this, like about my old book. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll see, I'll bring some copies just in case. And I ended up selling more, right? So that's a good thing to know going forward. So I'll be stocking up on both of those going into other book fairs. I'll build a cross reference that learning when I get into actual book fairs. Another thing I learned here that I got out of it is that just because someone didn't buy didn't mean that I wasn't necessarily gonna sell something to them, right? I got people who took my bookmark that has a QR code to find all the information on the book, but like they're just seeing me at the time of. There are actually cheaper ways of purchasing the book on the through the bookmark. So like I let people know that because ultimately those ways don't have as much overhead, so I didn't have to sell them for as much. So there's different ways to interact with people there, and I think that from that side of things, it was another real big win. Um, I won't be doing a ton of these. They're like I I probably, when it's all said and done, if you take out the expenses that are the recurring expenses of like the tent, the table, all the things I'm going to be reusing, I probably didn't quite break even, but I didn't like it wasn't a total loss. So I won't be doing a ton of events like this, but it was a really good start to figuring out how I fit into everything, right? So like I said, go cheaper so that you can play around with that. So I know myself, I'm a my wife recently explained to me that the concept of an ambivert, somebody who's introverted and extroverted. If you're a writer, there's a good chance that you're an introvert or an ambivert. I suppose there are extroverted writers, but like it's probably not the most common thing in the world. Um, I do pretty well in these kind of events. I used to do trade shows, so like I'm okay with like talking to people, rapid fire, like, oh, someone's walking by, start up a conversation. So I did a lot of retail. I did a lot of trade shows for different companies. So like that's a skill set that I have. I learned that about myself. But what I'll say is that like I also think that a big learning side of the things that I learned that I think you can do is if you can keep the idea of it's $70. If I'm out $70, I'm out $70, and not have the pressure of I need to make all my money back tonight. You're going to do yourself a favor because you're not only going to get all of what I said before, you're going to have, if you have no pressure, you can find that nice sweet spot of like, you don't want to be a carnival barker being like, come over and check out my book. And you don't want to be the person who's just sitting there waiting for anybody to come up to you. I found the nice balance of if someone was walking by, I'd smile and say hi. If they lingered, I'd talk a little longer. If they started to come over, I'd explain. Um, but if they just said hi and kept going, I wasn't trying to pull people because I was trying not to be obnoxious because that's not going to help you. But that was something that I had the luxury of no pressure to be able to do that. I didn't have a boss telling me like you got to sell 30 of these, um, and I didn't have some giant overhead that I was like, oh, I'm in trouble if I can't make this money back. That is freedom that if you can get that freedom, you're going to be able to start to hone this ability to really work a crowd, uh, or work with a crowd, to help sell your book. All right, so next time, it's gonna be Thanksgiving next week, so I'm gonna take a week off from making the video, if that's cool with you. I do hope you all have a happy Thanksgiving, uh, and I hope that you um, enjoy your dinner parties. No, but so 2 weeks from now, when I come back, the book will have been out for a little over a month, and so I think that it will be a good time to kind of talk about like first first month of sales, like numbers, learning, all the learnings, all the different things that came out of that. So I will talk to you in 2 weeks. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. um, I will be running, oh, one more thing, I guess, one more thing. I am right now going to be giving away the first 50 pages of the dinner party. So if you want to read a sample of it, I will have a link below for you to, you're just going to put in your email, and it will email you within like 5 minutes a 50 page sample from the first 50 pages of the book. I really people people have been telling me how good it is and how sucked in they get. So I think if you read the first 50, you might love it. That's what I'm counting on, obviously. But check it out, and then if I'm always offering deals online because it's way less expensive. I don't have to carry any of the overhead, which is something you need to learn. All right, but I will talk to you in 2 weeks about the first month of sales.